I caught my boyfriend of 8 years cheating on me, so this is what I did. So I was dating my boyfriend for about 8 years, and he always was like, I think couples that go through each other's phones or that have each other's passcodes have no trust and will never last. He was always with his phone, and he's like, no, it's just because like I have some work stuff and I have to always have it by my side. But then there's this Friday night where my whole life shattered. We were watching a movie on the couch and he had his phone with him, like always, but he slept with his phone under his pillow. But he fell asleep and his phone wasn't under his pillow, it was right by his side. He always leaves it on silent, but this time it rang. I look. I see a text of someone named Sophie with a heart emoji next to the name. I have to think fast because I don't want him to wake up. I have to find out more about this. Let's not forget, I did not have his passcode. All I could see was the name with an emoji, and I was like, there's no way, like this is not a work colleague, this is not anything. Like, it's the name Sophie with a heart emoji next to it. And I think, okay, I don't know his passcode, but Face ID. He's asleep next to me. So I put his phone in front of his face and it unlocked. As soon as it unlocked, I go and I immediately leave and I go and I lock myself in our bedroom. I was shaking, I was crying, I was going through all of the text messages, and it was 2 years worth of text messages. Found out he was like seeing her on the weekends when he would say that he was going to go visit his grandmother. A lot of pictures, like disgusting things that made my stomach turn. I even threw up. I couldn't stop reading. I read 2 years worth of text messages. I didn't sleep the whole night. So I have a lot of time to think. What am I gonna do? Because like I said, this is at night. He's gonna sleep through the whole night. He did sleep through the whole night. So I have a lot of time to think, what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna just wake him up and break up with him. No, this is too bad. I just want to add something that's very important. Throughout all these 2 years of text messages, not once did he mention me. Not once did she mention me either. So this all led me to believe that she had no idea I existed. So he basically had a whole different girlfriend on the side. So I saved Sophia's phone number and I call her from my phone. She was as heartbroken as I was because apparently she was his girlfriend. He asked her to be his girlfriend and they had been in a relationship for 2 years. They were long distance. That's why he was able to keep 2 relationships at once. But she wanted revenge too, so it was gonna be perfect. Can't sleep, obviously. I'm shaking, I'm throwing up, I'm crying, but I have to put myself together. And I think, okay, I'm gonna come clean about the fact that I know what he's up to. It's morning time. He wakes up. He starts screaming, asking about his phone. I practiced how I was going to tell him that I knew about everything, and I wanted to do it in a very calm way. He's freaking out because of his phone, and I just go to him and I hand him his phone. Before I even say anything, he starts freaking out at me. He's like, why did you take my phone? I agreed that we would never do this. You don't trust me, blah, blah, blah. I just go and I'm like, I know about everything, Noah. He starts gaslighting me. Obviously, I was prepared for that. But then he eventually crumbles and he apologizes to me. Asked me, like, what are we gonna do now? Are we gonna be able to go to fix this? I'll propose to you, like trying to win me over. And I go in it very calmly. Like I said, I'm just very calm. I'm gonna think. That's what I tell him. He's always talking about marriage at this point. I want to get married to you. I will do anything for you to stay with me, because I'm just giving him like the silence treatment. I'm not saying anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm draining our shared savings account. So 2 weeks after, it's his birthday, and I throw him a surprise party. Friends, family, co-workers, even his boss. I invited everybody he cared about. We sing happy birthday, and then it's time to cut the cake. And I offer to cut the cake, obviously, because I'm such a good girlfriend. And I want to make a speech. And I say, to Noah, the man I've loved for 8 years. And to Sophia, the woman he's been cheating on me for 2 years. Come say hi, Sophia. The room went quiet. And Sophia came in. You should have seen Noah's face. Some of his friends walked out. I don't know if they knew about it or not. His boss left without saying a word. It was extremely awkward, as you can imagine. I just grab my coat and I walk out. For these 2 weeks, whilst I was draining our shared savings account, I had already rented out a condo because I wanted to move out immediately after this birthday party. So that's exactly what I did. Now I'm living by myself. I moved out, and I even got a dog because he always ate a dog. So for him, I mean, he lost all of his reputation. That's what he deserved.
My dad's 28-year-old girlfriend has started momming me. Now, maybe for a helpful reference, I'm 26 years old, so this woman is only 2 years older than me. And when my dad first introduced her to the entire family, he said that she was 34, but I internet sleuthed that because she did not look that old. I was like, I need to know who does your Botox, because if you're really 34, you look great. And yeah, she wasn't 34. Actually, the first time I met this woman, she was only 24 years old and I was 22. Her and my dad dated and then they broke up for 2 years and I thought that was the end of her. I was never going to see that woman again. Thank goodness. But no, guess who turned up at my Thanksgiving dinner this year? Unannounced, unexpected, my sister. I mean, like stepmom, I don't know. Obviously, it's always been a little bit of a weird dynamic between the two of us because she's practically my age and dating my father. But we've always managed to just get away with some polite small talk. I've never really tried to get to know her much. Can you blame me? And normally she just minds her own business. She just kind of stays near my dad and knows the situation is weird. But that all changed during our family vacation this weekend. My dad, my sister, and I always go to his cabin one weekend out of the year just to hang out, catch up. It's a cute little family tradition. But imagine my surprise when I pulled up and I saw none other than my dad's girlfriend. It grosses me out to even say that, considering the age. There. Like, we didn't get any warning. None. He did not tell us she was coming. And honestly, if he wanted to bring her, fine. That's his choice. He can do whatever he wants. But at least let us know so you don't just blindside us. And let's be honest, I could never imagine this woman spending an entire weekend in the woods. She's basically my dad's sugar baby. He does every single thing for her, pays all of her bills. He buys her everything that she wants. She only wears designer things, drives a really nice car that my dad bought. My dad never bought my sister and I a car nearly that nice. She basically lives this life of luxury on my dad's dime. That girl looked like a baby deer getting out of the car and trying to walk over all of the dirt and the leaves in her Louboutins. Like, girly, I love Louboutins, but there's a time and a place for those, and a cabin in the woods is not that time or that place. And immediately, like right when we get inside the cabin, she starts being really weird and just making it clear that my sister and I are from totally different generations than her. For example, she was explaining to us what Vine was. She was like, back in my day when we had Vine and not TikTok, it was the best. I wish you had a chance to experience it. I was like, yeah, I mean, I did experience it. I had Vine. We're the same age. Then later, my sister and I were just making fun of each other, as sisters do, poking fun at each other, laughing, having a good time. She comes in from the other room and goes, "Girls, stop it," in a super disciplinarian tone. I was like, so who are you talking to? Which girls are you talking to? Because you cannot possibly be talking to me and my sister. I guess she thought my sister and I were in a fight or something, but we could not even help it. We burst out laughing. It was absolutely ridiculous. She was acting like we were 7-year-olds fighting over a toy or something. Then, when my sister is going to take a shower, she practically body slams her out of the way and is like, "Wait, before you shower, let me explain to you how the shower works, because it can be really confusing." This is our family cabin that we've lived in for weekends at a time for years since we were little girls, and we know how the shower works. But that's what she would do. She would just talk to us like we were an idiot the entire weekend about actually everything. She made it seem like we were 7 years old and didn't know how anything would work. She also kept referring to my sister and I as the girls. Like, don't the girls just look so cute tonight? Always cute. Never pretty, beautiful, anything. Cute. The girls look cute tonight. But the craziest thing that she did, and what got us into a fight, is when my sister and I were watching a movie at about 10:30 p.m. on Saturday night. And she waltzes into the living room and says, "Okay, girls, it's time for bed." Time for bed? Since when did I have a bedtime? And I am still trying to be nice to the girl, okay, for my dad's sake. So I say, "Oh, we're just finishing up this movie and then we're going to head to bed." And she said, "No, that's not what I said. I said it's time for bed right now. It's time for the adults to be awake right now and have some adult time without the kids around." Adults? The kids? You're 2 years older than me. You were dating my dad when you were younger than me. But I lose it at this point. I look at her and I say, "You can play house. You can leech off my dad, but don't come in here and patronize me and my sister." I told her, "I do not want to be in a fight with you, and I promise you that is not a fight that you want to pick or that you would win." She goes right off crying to my dad about how mean I was to her. Like, girl, I have been nice to you for years, even though the situation is weird. So, you should be lucky this is the first time I actually went at you. I don't know what to do at this point because it seems like ignoring her isn't an option anymore.
Am I the asshole for leaving my husband and stepdaughter stranded on Christmas when I found out he gave her my big Christmas gift? My husband M, 41 male, is the worst at gift giving. We have been together for over 3 years, and after the first year of not receiving anything for my birthday, anniversary, Christmas, or Valentine's Day, Mother's Day was the last straw. After he told me that I wasn't his mother, I decided to start matching his energy. Father's Day came and I was gone all day when normally I would have put together a big lunch or dinner and driven 30 to 45 minutes to get his daughter, now 16, so they could spend the day together. He called me in the afternoon and I was polite but not initiating conversation. He asked me when I was picking up his daughter. I replied that I had plans and I wasn't aware that I was supposed to pick her up since nothing was communicated to me. When he responded with, "It's Father's Day," I used his response back to him, "You're not my father." I had anticipated him getting upset, and I knew a constructive conversation would not be had. So when he started to raise his voice, I told him to check the table, and I hung up. I had left a letter to him communicating how much I was hurt after going out of my way for him to not have any sort of reciprocation. He called me later and said that he would try to be better and work on it. I ended up going to get his daughter during the week so they could enjoy dinner together. Background information. He drives big rig trucks, so the vehicle that we use for everyday travel is mine. He's been better about the gifts. It's more of a go pick something out and I'll pay for it, which I really don't mind. He does the same thing for his daughter. I do all the shopping for his family when it comes to birthdays and holidays. Cut to a week before Christmas, and I wake up to my favorite coffee drink and my husband taking me out to eat for breakfast, followed by a trip to the mall to pick out my Christmas gift. I rarely splurge on myself when it comes to purses and clothes. I have a preteen son from my first marriage, so I tend to be more practical when it comes to myself and spend on him for his birthday and Christmas. My stepdaughter, however, is very materialistic and always is asking for money or something expensive. Between her father and his family, her mother and her family, and her stepfather, she always gets it. I had been repeatedly saying out loud that I need a new purse since mine was hanging on by a thread, and I had decided to invest in a good designer handbag. I started saving money and I looked online for my new dream purse. So imagine my surprise and excitement when we got to the department store and I seen they have my dream purse in stock. I know your husband didn't give your purse to his daughter. I know he did, but I'm so hoping that he didn't. My husband sort of gave a look when he saw the price. I told him that I could contribute and explained how I had been saving so I could save enough to get this purse that I had been dreaming about for months. He shook his head and said that I deserved it and he would get it for me, but also gave me the expectation, since he was getting me this, that he wasn't going to be able to afford to get me anything else. I screamed with delight and I told him that was okay. I didn't need anything else. Your husband's a fucking jerk because you are so excited and you are so happy about this bag, and I know that he gave it to his daughter. I am so upset for you. With that taken care of, my husband asked if it was okay to go and get his daughter and take her Christmas shopping. I had tons to do at home in preparation for the holiday, so this worked out perfectly. I could have the house empty to get what I needed done. I was reaching to get my new purse when we arrived home. He said for me to leave it because he had another gift he had previously purchased for me that he was going to put inside the purse for me to open on Christmas. I was on cloud 9, so I kissed him and left my bag and went inside. You already told me you weren't getting me anything else and to not expect anything else, but now all of a sudden there's a previously purchased mystery gift. Y'all don't be thinking fast enough for me. I was still busy cleaning and decorating when he got home later that night, and the rest of the days before Christmas were all a blur, with me trying to get my house ready for the holiday. I hosted Christmas Eve at my house with my family, and Christmas Day, I slept in, tired from the night before. I woke up with just enough energy to brush my teeth before we headed out to go and get his daughter, then a drive to spend the day at his mother's house. I fell asleep on the drive, and I woke up after his daughter was picked up, and we were already en route to his mom's. I turned around to greet her, and that's when I saw her rummaging and holding my new purse. "Where did you get that purse?" I asked her, and the car fell completely silent. I bet it fucking did. I looked at my husband and he stayed silent with both hands on the wheel looking straight ahead. I asked her again, this time in a louder, more stern tone. She looked down and quietly mumbled, "My dad gave it to me." "You what?" I screamed. "How would you think it was okay to give your daughter my new purse?" He told me to calm down and I cut him off and screamed no. Then I turned back to his daughter and told her that her father had no right to give her my purse and that she needed to return it, to which she refused. I could feel my anger raging, then subsiding to a feeling of sadness and complete defeat. I put my coat over my head and leaned against the window, trying to cover my face and mouth as tears started running down my cheeks. My husband pulled over at the next gas station. His daughter bolted out, taking the purse with her. He tried to comfort me, to which I slapped his hand away and told him not to touch me, and I gave him a look of disgust. He informed me that after he dropped me off the day he picked up his daughter to take her shopping, on the way taking her home, she noticed the bag and saw the purse. She begged and pleaded with him to please let her have it. She reminded him about all the times that he never got her a gift, and how giving her this purse would make up for it. That played on his heart, and he finally caved and gave her my purse. That's bullshit. I don't give a fuck about none of that. I don't give a fuck about none of that. He tried to say that he was going to make it up to me, and I asked how, knowing that it was impossible. He already spent his money and made it clear that he wasn't going to have the money to buy me anything else. I couldn't help but get upset as I tried to get him to understand how hurt I felt and how it's not like she was suffering with her getting to open presents from her mother as well as her stepfather, plus gifts from their family along with the gifts she was going to get from his family, that he had already spent money on her for Christmas presents. This was my one gift. I know Christmas is not about getting presents, but I was extremely upset that my husband could be so thoughtless and not consider the amount of pain this was going to cause me. His phone rang and it was his daughter, calling him from inside the store asking him to come because she needed money to buy something. As he was walking into the store, I looked back and tears began to fill my eyes. I saw all the gifts that I picked out for his family with care. Something came over me and I stopped crying. I got out, got into the driver's seat, wiped my face, and peeled out of the gas station parking lot, leaving my husband and stepdaughter behind. I turned my phone off and drove back to town to spend the day with my family at my cousin's. I stayed with them, not returning any of my husband's phone calls, not returning home until late the following day. The only phone call I did return was the one from my stepdaughter's mother to set her straight after she left me a hateful message about leaving her daughter stranded because I was jealous her father bought her a new purse. I told her she had been told a lie and informed her of the truth, that in fact her father did not buy her a new purse. He bought me a new purse. She played on her father's emotions after he had already bought her expensive items for Christmas to guilt him into giving her my purse. Her mother apologized and tried to come up with a solution, to which I replied to her to not bother. The damage had already been done. I found out through my sister-in-law that my husband's brother went to go and get them, and the story came out later that evening. His mother is on his side, of course she is, while his brother and sister-in-law and other aunts and uncles sided with me and got onto his daughter. I haven't spoken to his daughter since Christmas, and things are unsettling at home. I've become more distant from my husband. When I make dinner, I don't serve him. I only serve my son and myself. I only engage in conversation with my son. He's tried to reach for me at night when we're in bed, and I always end up crying. I'm not angry or mad, I just feel nothingness. He's back on the road, and I do miss him, but I can't shake the feeling of how he let me down. I can't hide my looks of disappointment, looking to see what others have to say about the situation. I'll let you know right here in the fuck now, you're not the asshole, because I definitely would have dropped their ass the fuck off too and pushed the hell on and went and spent my time with people that actually value me and fucking love me. My question to you is, when is enough going to be enough? When is enough going to be enough? You cannot convince me that your husband was not intending to give that bag to your stepdaughter the entire fucking time. The moment he seen the price on the bag, he gave it a look. But he's constantly giving money and buying expensive things for his daughter. Your husband does not believe you deserve these name brand things. You finally pick out an expensive gift that you want. Your dream purse. As a purse girly, I understand that with my entire soul. Your dream purse. And he gives it away. Something that means the world to you because you've been saving. You've been working towards it. 100% was okay with waiting and getting it later on. And he gave it away and doesn't feel like he did anything wrong. Tells you to calm down. How long are you going to continue to deal with this? What type of example are you setting for your son? You have a preteen son who is watching the way his mother is being treated. You are teaching your son It is absolutely okay to treat the woman you claim to love like this.
I got in a disagreement with my ex-husband's new wife over our children. Let's get into it. My ex-husband ended up having an affair, and he ends up marrying the lady that he cheated on me with. So ends up marrying his mistress, if you will. Okay. Now, when this happened, it's been a few years back, and our kids were pretty young at the time that this happened. My ex tends to work out of state pretty frequently and travel a lot with his job, which is totally fine. But because of his schedule, he only gets the kids 6 days out of every month. And this was just for them, so they had a more consistent schedule and that they weren't going to be left with like babysitters or his new wife. One day my ex calls me and wants to have a conversation about his wife, Jen, who he's now married to. And it was kind of like a weird, I didn't really know what was going on. I don't talk to her really at all. All communication goes through him. So I don't know a ton like about her. And obviously what I do know about her, I don't think is great. So he calls and wants to have a conversation about how Jen and him both, I guess, but it's on Jen's side, I believe, they're struggling to have children. So he wanted to have a conversation with me about possibly letting Jen have more time with our children since she is unable to have children of her own, and wanting to kind of like fill that void with our kids. Does that make sense? I was a little thrown off by this request and kind of honestly like a little irritated. And I just reminded him like in a kind way, look, like our kids are not toys. Like we're not just sharing toys, you know what I mean? And it wasn't, this is what's important too. Like it wasn't him requesting more time with his kids, okay? It was her. She's not even going to be there. Like dad's not even going to be there. So that was another thing that was a little irritating to me and made it very much feel like they were treating our children as items versus people. So like, hey, let's mess up their schedule and have them more so that I can fill some void. And I hate that they have that void, okay? Like I'm not trying to underplay the fact that she can't have children. Like I hate that for her, but like my kids are not your surrogate for that, nor will they be. And also maybe I'm a little bitter about how this whole relationship started, but like, no, just no. Another little important detail to note is that I knew of Jen prior to all of this coming out. So Jen was actually dating someone in my ex's friend circle. And so anytime we all hung out with them, she always made a point. At first I thought she was just really friendly, like wanted friends, because she would always make a point to talk to me and like try to get to know me and like always say hi to me, all of that. Like she always made a point to make sure that we were talking. And I found out later, of course, that this was all, the affair was already happening. So while we were there all hanging out, like they were doing things behind my back already. And she was trying to become my friend, which finding out later really didn't help me like her at all. She was hoping that we would become friends through her, again, dating this other friend so that when I found out the truth, it would make it easier since her and I already had a relationship. So now that we know all of that, let's get to current events. Jen was a big cheerleader back in the day, okay? And she did competitive cheer. And now still to this day, she volunteers and coaches a cheer team, okay? So my daughter is 10 and Jen is wanting her to start in cheerleading. So my daughter comes home and tells me that Jen is trying to get her to do cheerleading and she wants no part in it at all. And I try to have a conversation with her, like, are you sure you don't want to just like give it a shot and see how it goes? I'm not a total bitter Betty, okay? Like if my kids are interested in something and it's not my idea, but it comes from their dad or even Jen for that matter, like I'm not going to shut it down. Like I want to make sure if it's something they want to do, then I want them to do it. I don't want to keep them from doing things just because of my bitterness. So I have the conversation with my daughter and I'm like, are you sure you don't want to just try it? You know, see if you like it. It might be something that you're really into. I knew that it was not her thing, but I just wanted her to know that if anything ever came up that she did want to do that wasn't my idea or was her dad's idea or Jen's idea, that it would be fine with me. Like I'm okay with it. She was totally against it. She wants no part in it. She's not the cheer girly. Like she didn't want to do it. So she asked for my help in talking to her dad. So I reached out to my ex and tried to have like, it was over text, so everything's in writing, you know. And I just told him like, hey, look, our daughter doesn't want to do cheer. I don't really want her forced into something against her will, especially if she has no interest in it. Like, can we have a more detailed conversation about it? And I did not get a good response, okay? Like, he was very clearly frustrated. There was a lot of like really terrible language and just awful. So Jen tried to call me, and of course I didn't answer because I didn't get a good response from him. Like, I'm sure as heck not going to have the conversation with her. So I didn't answer. Fast forward a few days later, I'm in the grocery store and Jen is there. And she comes up to me, approaches me at the store, which whatever. We live close together. Like, no surprise that I run into them every now and then. Not very much, really, but I did this time. So she comes up to me, wants to have a conversation, and I just told her, like, look, my children are not going to be forced into things that they don't want to do just because you want to do it. This is when she tells me that she's known my children since they were little, and I can't keep punishing her by depriving her of a relationship with them, which I'm not trying to deprive her of a relationship with them. I'm just not going to allow her to force my kids into something that they don't want to do because she has now come to the realization that she's not going to be able to have her own biological children to do that. And that sounds mean. That sounds mean. Like I said, if my daughter wanted any part in it, I would absolutely support it. And I would cheer her on, and I would be at every, I don't know what it's called, like competition. Like, I would be there, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's not what this is about. But it does play in a little factor that it's being pushed so much more. And I think it's being pushed more because Jen realizes that she may not get to do this again with another child. So I walk away from the conversation, okay? I walk away from Jen, and I'm trying to just be the better person. And she follows me. She continues to follow me around the store and tells me how terrible of a mother I am for not allowing my daughter to do something that could potentially be really good for her. And I'm not discrediting that cheerleading is good or bad or whatever. Like, I don't know. But the whole point was that my daughter didn't want to do it, and so I wasn't going to force her to do it. So I had asked her to stop following me. We could talk about it at a different time. She continued. And so I turned around. I was like, look, if you want to have a daughter that wants to do the things that you want to do and that you enjoy, then go have one. But leave mine alone and quit making her do things that she doesn't want to do. She stopped following me. I checked out. I left. My ex calls me multiple times telling me how cruel I am for saying that. And, you know, in hindsight, it probably wasn't very nice. But also, why would she continue to follow me? I told her to leave me alone. So anyway, I don't know. So you tell me, am I the jerk, or would you have done the same thing?
My boyfriend uninvited me from his sister's wedding so that he could bring his girl best friend, but I'm going anyway. For starters, I love my boyfriend's family. I do not love his girl best friend. My boyfriend's been friends with this girl since childhood, and he admits that for years he was in love with her, but she just kept leading him on. She would flirt with him, say things like, oh, but like, could you ever imagine if we were together? Maybe that would be amazing. Making marriage pacts, things like that. But then she would always get a boyfriend and friend zone him. And this cycle of flirting with him when she was single and acting like they were just friends when she had a boyfriend continued all the way into college until he met me. Now, I've only met his girl best friend a few times because she lives in a different state than us, but every time has been far less than enjoyable. The girl is awful, and she thinks everything between us is a competition. Who knows him best? Who would be a better wife? Who would be a better wife? Like, why? That's so weird. But for some reason, it always comes back to who's closer with his family. And she always talks about how his mom is like a second mom to her, and she just really feels like she's a part of their family. Okay. Cool flex. Like, don't know what to tell you about that one. About a week ago, my boyfriend's sister's wedding invitation came in the mail, and it was addressed to him, but included a +1. Obviously, that +1 was meant for me. Like, we've been dating for years. It was just assumed, or so I thought. Now, the first few days after getting the invitation, he was talking to me about plans, plane flights to go to the wedding, things like that. But after a few days, he stopped mentioning the wedding. And if I brought it up, he would change the subject. So 2 days ago, I get home and my boyfriend's in the bedroom on the phone on speaker with somebody. And I would know that nasally, whiny little voice anywhere. It was his girl best friend. And she was talking about what she should wear to the wedding, which I didn't think was weird. She always talks about how close she is to his family. So obviously she'd be invited, right? So I walk into the bedroom and say hi to his girl best friend on the phone. And he looks startled, which is weird because I've said hi to her on speaker before, and he didn't seem to have a problem with it. And I tell her that I look forward to seeing her at the wedding, which is a lie, but I'm nice, okay? I'm trying to be nice. Tell me why this girl says, oh, I'm so glad you got an individual invitation. I was starting to feel a little bad about taking your +1. Taking my +1? Who's taking my +1? So my boyfriend really quickly tells this girl that he has to go. And I'm like, yeah, you better hang up the phone because you have some explaining to do. And I stand there, my arms crossed, and I'm like, okay, what is she talking about? And he tells me that she didn't receive an invitation to the wedding. Shocking, considering how close she says. Like part of the family, that's what she said. And he said that she called him distraught, saying that it would mean everything to her to go to this wedding and to celebrate with the people that she loved the most. People that you love the most. You didn't get invited to the wedding. So I tell him, I'm like, I think that that's really strange to make your +1 not your girlfriend at your immediate family's wedding. And he was like, you know, they've known her forever. I don't think it'd be that weird. And I was like, well, she didn't get invited. So, and he has the nerve to go, well, neither did you. I'm floored, honestly. The fact that he said that, I was like, yes, I was invited. That +1 was meant for me. I've literally talked to your sister about her wedding multiple times. That +1, just because it didn't have my name on it, did not mean that it wasn't meant for me. And he said, well, you know what? Your name isn't on it. I can choose who I want as my +1, and I'm taking my friend. So I storm out, go to my best friend's place, and proceed to just cry and tell her what happened. Honestly, I was just feeling so embarrassed. I know I shouldn't feel embarrassed, but it's just like, how could he not even want me there? But that is when I got an unexpected call from my boyfriend's sister. She told me that my boyfriend just called her to tell her the situation, and she was livid. She said that clearly the +1 in that invitation was me. She apologized. She was like, you know, I was just trying to save some customization costs, but if I would have known he was going to pull this, I should have just put your name on it. Like, that was clearly intended for you. I'm so sorry if it came across that I didn't want you at my wedding or that you weren't invited. You're 100% invited. I want you there. The best part, though, is she starts talking about my boyfriend's girl best friend. And she says, there's absolutely no way I'm letting that little leech at my wedding. My boyfriend's sister goes on to tell me that his entire family despises this girl because she led on my boyfriend for years. He's rude, selfish, ungrateful. Every time she was over at their house, she would leave a mess, never clean it up. Basically, she said that she was just not a nice girl. And it was intentional that she didn't get an invitation to the wedding. So even though his girl best friend was saying that, you know, she was like family to that was a lie. They don't talk. She tries to reach out apparently, and they all ignore her. Then she tells me that she has revoked her brother's +1 and will be mailing me my individual invitation. She even told me that even if I make the decision to dump my boyfriend over this, she would still love to have me at the wedding because she feels like I've become part of the family at this point. I'm part of the family. Oh my, how the tables have turned. So I know for a fact that I'm going to be at that wedding. Now, will I be attending with my boyfriend or not? That's to be decided. Let me tell y'all, the wait was worth it because the update I have for you, absolutely insane. But where we left off is that my boyfriend's sister found out that he was inviting his best girlfriend instead of me. So she revoked his +1 and was sending me my own invitation. First, for the question that everybody's wondering, yes, I dumped him. I'm not going to sit around and be disrespected like that. Also, I'm the most fun wedding date, so the fact that he didn't want to bring me, it just shows that he has bad judgment, and I can't be dating a man with bad judgment and who disrespects me. And yeah, I sound okay now, but when I broke up with him, I was pretty devastated. I mean, I was with a guy for years, I loved him, and it's a breakup, it's hard. But you know what softened the blow? When I received the invitation for a sister's wedding in the mail. Because not only was it an invitation for me, but it included a +1. By the time she sent me this invitation, I was already broken up with her brother, so she knew what she was doing giving me a +1. Originally, I was thinking about bringing one of my best friends because I know I'm always gonna have a good time with them. Then I thought, you know what? That's not petty enough. You see, something that I have failed to mention about my now ex-boyfriend is that he's a bit of a hypocrite because although he has this best girlfriend, I wasn't allowed to talk to my best guy friend. My best guy friend has been my friend since childhood, and we were super close family friends. Literally, there's never been anything romantic between the two of us, but my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, was incredibly jealous. And he did not like that we would FaceTime, talk on the phone, so he told me that I couldn't talk to him anymore. And thinking back now, honestly, I'm so disappointed in myself that I didn't end the relationship then and that I didn't pick my friend, but hindsight's 2020. Luckily, after this breakup, I went back to my best guy friend and apologized, and he 100% understood and said no hard feelings and that we'd have a fresh start. I'm so lucky. And what is a better way to have a fresh start than attending a big wedding together? And my best guy friend, he was beyond in on this plan. He knew the reason that we hadn't talked in a few years was because of how jealous and controlling my ex-boyfriend was. So he thought this would be the perfect opportunity to get back at him. So the day of the wedding comes, and me and my best friend roll up in the most amazing color-coordinated fit. His tie matched my dress, beautiful. And let me tell you, we walked in holding hands. The whole day, he had his arm around me, kissing me on the cheek. We were looking super coupley, even though we are the farthest thing from a couple. And whenever my ex saw me and my best friend walk into the ceremony area together, his face turned bright red. He immediately began to storm towards us, but some of the guys in the wedding party had to hold him back so, he wouldn't cause a scene. During the whole ceremony, my ex kept turning around and staring daggers at me and my best guy friend. Like, your sister's getting married, okay? Like, turn around. Like, eyes up front. We were sitting towards the back, so right when the ceremony was over, we were able to rush right out into cocktail hour. And that is where everything got insane. After about 5 minutes of being there, we heard yelling. I turn and guess who I see? But my ex-boyfriend's best girlfriend. Girlie, what are you doing there? You weren't invited. Turns out that when he saw that I brought my best guy friend, he texted her and told her that she needed to get there immediately. Now, all the bridesmaids know that the bride is not a fan of this girl. So they're telling her that she needs to get out. My ex-boyfriend is screaming at them that this is his date and they have no right to talk to her that way. It is a whole mess. I'm loving it, honestly. I just wish that they were serving popcorn at the cocktail hour because it was a show for sure. That's when my ex-boyfriend locks eyes with me and starts making a beeline right for me and my best guy friend. It was funny seeing him be dramatic and overreact from a distance, but as he's coming towards me, I was not as funny anymore. And, his little best girlfriend is following behind him like a little duckling, and he starts screaming. He's yelling. He's telling me how terrible I am. I don't know. Honestly, I just kind of zoned him out. Why do I care what this man has to say? I listened to this man's useless thoughts for years. I'm not going to give any more time to that. So I'm just standing there nodding. No, you're right. Yeah. No, I get it. I totally. And he is flailing his hands so much when talking that he hits a waiter's platter and it goes up, spills red cocktail sauce all over him. His best little girlfriend tries to help him clean it up with some napkins, but he's so embarrassed that he just starts screaming at her, which makes her start crying. So he's screaming, she's crying, it's a mess. I'm just there, eating my little shrimp cocktail. It was delicious, okay, great. I would actually like to know who the caterer was because top tier. So what does he do? He storms out. He leaves his sister's wedding before the reception. Wild. Which I felt bad. I was like, did I do that? Is this my fault? But obviously, I had asked his sister if I could be petty and bring my guy best friend before the wedding. And she loved it. She said that it was time that her brother learned his lesson and was held accountable. So during the reception, when she came up to me and asked where her brother was, and I told her the story, she burst out laughing. This girl was laughing so hard she was in tears. And I was like, you're not upset that he's not here? And she was like, no, this is the best possible outcome. I am just so glad that he is getting what was coming to him. Now, since the wedding, my ex has been trying desperately to get me back. Showed up outside my window with a boombox. Okay, that's cute. in a totally different context when you do it, it's disgusting and cringy. As for my ex's sister, I'm going to her birthday dinner next week. I'm pretty sure we're going to be best friends for life, so at least I got something out of the relationship.
A girl named Hayden emailed me. She was like, I have a spooky, scary story time about renting an Airbnb with my boyfriend last Christmas for a week, and it was the most terrifying experience I've ever had in my life. I'm so excited for this story. It's so good, but I'm excited because I'm in the Smoky Mountains right now, and I've been saving the story for this trip. So Hayden and her boyfriend decided they were going to go away for Christmas. They were going to get a mountain cabin for the week of Christmas because they couldn't decide on whose family to go to. They had like not been together that long, but also kind of together long. So it was just like easier if they just did the Christmas themselves and then dealt with it this year. So they booked this 1 week stay at a cabin. It has great reviews. Hayden reads the reviews before she books it. Great reviews, super host status. The only thing that a lot of the reviews said was that the driveway was super steep, so to make sure you had 4-wheel drive. So Hayden's like, no problem. Her boyfriend drove a truck, whatever. They book it. So when they're driving to the cabin the first day, they're like winding up these mountain roads, and they come across a black dog in the middle of the road. It's like a huge, like sheepdog looking dog. It's not matted, it looks well taken care of, and it's just stopped in the middle of the road and it's staring at them, and they can't pass because it's a narrow road. So they just wait. The dog runs into the woods. They're like, okay, weird, but whatever. There's not really any other houses as they pull up to this alone cabin. So they get there, they check it out. It's a nice place, super clean. Everything is in its place as photographed. So she's just like, being a little nosy, checking out the closets, seeing where the washer and dryer's at. And she tries this one door off the main hallway, off the living room, like leading back to the bedrooms. It was a 1-story house. So tries this door and it's locked, and she's like, okay, whatever. Like the host keeps probably like cleaning supplies in here. She doesn't think anything of it. They're just hanging out. Like they have a bottle of gin and they have a bottle of something else. I forgot what she said. Later that night, Hayden wakes up because she hears whispering, and she's like, hey, do you hear that? She wakes up her boyfriend, and he's like, yeah, who is that? And so they look out the window. They don't see anything, but they're just like, somebody is whispering. And so they go out to the living room, make sure the TV's off, everything's off. They get back in bed, whispering stops. Hayden woke up pretty early. She said there was a time change from where she lived, and so she was just up a little bit earlier than she was used to. The sun was coming up. It was like just rising, so pretty early. She's laying in bed for a little while, just like listening to the quiet, and she hears something rustling outside the window. So she's like, oh, there's an animal out there. So she wakes up, she like opens the blinds and like peeks out, and she can't see anything. So she's like, okay, weird, whatever. She goes out to the kitchen and makes some coffee, and she sees that the gin bottle is empty. Her and her boyfriend had gone to bed at the same time, and she said that they had maybe like 4 drinks out of that bottle. So when he woke up later, she was like, oh, did you wake up last night and like, have some more drinks without me? Like just kind of playing around. She's like, you finished the bottle? And he was like, no, I didn't. And she was like, no, you did. And she said it really bothered her because she thought he was lying about being like a closet alcoholic or something. But later on, they're like downtown in like the cute little shop area, and he brings it up to her because she orders a drink at a bar that they're at, and he's like, hey, I think we should talk about your drinking. Like, I know that you finished that bottle of gin and you didn't want to tell me, and you like tried to make it seem like I did it, but like I know that you did it. And she was like, I didn't finish that bottle. But whatever, they're there. So they have a drink together, they have dinner, they go back to their Airbnb, and they were like not fighting, but she said like the energy was off. So that night, like pretty soon after they got back to the Airbnb, they go to bed pretty early because like they just didn't really want to hang out with each other. That night, she wakes up to a noise that sounds like a car door being slammed. And she looks next to her. Her boyfriend's there. So she's like, what is going on? So she looks out through the blinds, and she sees headlights in the driveway. So she wakes up her boyfriend. She's like, somebody's here. And he's like, what do you mean? And she's like, look outside the window. Like there's a car out there. And so he looks, and he's like, this is weird, because the cabin that they were renting was like not by any other cabin. So at first, her boyfriend is trying to convince her, like, okay, well, maybe it's just somebody that's like turned around on these mountain roads. Like they're trying to go back down. They're just trying to figure out where they are. Like a lot of people don't have service. So Hayden goes out to the living room to look out the living room window so she can like maybe get a plate or something in case anything happens. And she notices that now in the time it took her to walk from the bedroom to the living room, they have flashed their brights on. So now like their whole living room is lit up with these brights. Side note for anyone who saw the video that I posted yesterday about being in the Smoky Mountains, this is the story that I was reading when those brights were behind me. That's why I freaked out. Anyway, floodlights coming through the living room window. Her boyfriend comes out. He's like, what is going on? He's like, I'm going to call the cops. So he steps outside. He's like, hey, I'm going to call the cops. Like, what are you doing out here? And he's telling Hayden like, hey, call the cops. So she calls, and as like he's yelling at this car, it like backs down the driveway and takes off. The last night Hayden was there, she woke up to someone whispering her name. And so she was like, oh, that was a really vivid dream. But then she wakes up and she hears them whisper, Hayden, again. And she jumps up, sits up in bed. She looks out the window, there's nobody there. So she like smacks her boyfriend. She's like, get up, somebody's here. They call the cops again because they're convinced like someone is on the property. Cops come, can't find anything. They take the report and Hayden has had enough. She messages the host. The host was like super nice, refunded her the rest of the nights, the 4 nights that they didn't stay. And Hayden leaves and she says like at this point, she's convinced that there was somebody else in that Airbnb. Now, she said it was a standalone property, but the only thing that she keeps thinking of is that locked room. She said she scoured the reviews. There was nothing else about hearing whispering or headlights or anything like that. She said she's curious to what you guys think because it's been a year, but she still said she thinks about it and she will never come back to the mountains.
And by the arse of not telling my husband's family that I speak their language. Story time. So, me and my husband, who we'll call Steve, have been married for about 3 years now. I'm from West Canada and my husband is from Germany. We lived in Canada for the majority of our relationship, but recently we decided to make the move back to Germany so that we could be closer to my husband's family. So the day after our flight landed, we all went to see Steve's family. I gotta wet my sponge. This is only the second time I've seen them. The first time was on our wedding day. They greeted us, they brought us inside their house, we had dinner and then shortly left the house. For the next few months, we would go and visit Steve's family every few days. Now, I began to realise that the rest of the family would start to speak about me specifically in German. They would make really rude comments about my hair and makeup, saying that my fashion was very questionable. The thing that really got me is that they would make horrific comments about my pregnant belly. Now, I spoke to Steve about this and I told him that I didn't like the way that they were talking about me and that every single thing I did was being judged. Steve told me he would talk to his family about it. So the time comes again for me to go around to his family's house, and this time no comments were made. Winner. For like 3 months, it was like nothing had ever happened. In that time, I gave birth to a gorgeous baby girl. This little bubble was burst, and Steve's family found out about the name. They were not happy. Now, I really put off seeing my in-laws for a very long time, as you can imagine. But yesterday was my mother-in-law's birthday, so we all decided to go over. It was good for about 5 minutes, okay? And then started to go downhill very, very quickly. Everyone wanted to hold Lilith, and this made my mother-in-law Sandra upset because no one was paying attention to her. Everyone was paying attention to Lilith. And this is when I caught my sister-in-law talking to Sandra about how she was so frustrated that I wouldn't let anyone hold the baby. And this is when my mother-in-law had the audacity to call me a fat, ugly, hokey addict. This is when I decided that I would let rip. I turned to my mother-in-law and sister-in-law and replied to them in German, saying I have been understanding what you have been saying about me this whole time, that calling me these names was the absolute last straw. I told them that I had known German my whole life. When I tell you, this table instantly blew up. People are yelling at me though, telling me that this is my fault. And this is when I grabbed Steve, grabbed the kids and walked out. And we have not seen his family since.
Am I the asshole for telling my sister that she's the one who chose to have kids and now she has to deal with the consequences and stop complaining all the time? My sister got pregnant right when she turned 18, and then our parents and her boyfriend's parents insisted that they get married, and now they have 5 children ages 11, 6, 3, 2, and 1. My sister is currently 29, by the way. My sister and I are both super close to our parents. We have family dinners pretty often, so I'm kind of just to the point where I'm over it. My sister has never had a job before. She has no college degree and her boyfriend barely makes any money. And she just constantly complains that she can never do anything for herself anymore. No one will ever watch the kids. Her body is ruined because she has kids. She can't afford to get abdominal wall correction, etc., etc. The list literally goes on. She's constantly complaining. She is just so hard to be around, and not to mention her kids are feral and annoying as well. Her husband is also never around her because he also can't stand being around her. Our parents gave us the contraception talk when we were 16 years old, and they encouraged us to get an education before settling down. Parents are pretty liberal aside from the fact that they don't think that kids should be born out of wedlock. My sister chose to have these children. She could have chose another option, but she really wanted a baby at the age of 18. Recently at our Christmas get together, she was going on yet another rant, her woe is me rant, and I finally got sick of it and just told her to shut up and that she needs to stop complaining all the time. She continues to go on a rant about how I just wouldn't get it because I have a degree and a job and me and my boyfriend don't have children, and that I can go to the gym and I can afford to do whatever I want and she can't. I told her that she's the one who put herself in that position and nobody feels sorry for her. Our brother just laughed when I said that, and our parents are just staying out of it. Now my sister is just calling me an asshole and she's crying all over Facebook about it, and she keeps posting all these TikToks about how it's so sad that society hates mothers and how it's so sad that she doesn't have the support of her family. Oh, and she's pregnant again, apparently. I blocked her on all social media, but my plan is to just ignore her now. Am I the